What ho, and welcome back to the Vintage Super League. I'm joined by Andreas Peterson, and boy, he and I had a really exciting match.
For sure. Oh, yeah. It's not often that you get an interesting game one against Dredge with a fair deck, but I had a line where I needed to find Black Lotus to make it interesting, and I somewhat succeeded in making it interesting, I think.
You made a giant Hydra. I mean, that Hydra card is really good, and I had gone down pretty far in my library. I feel like I was able to combo off eventually for exactly 15, but I didn't have the best hand to work with. And then game two was just completely bonkers.
Yeah, I had an opening 7 with no leyline, and I added the Tinker package as a hedge against like random creature decks, and I thought it would be great against you as well to just try and get lucky. But yeah, it turns out turn 2 Tinker was just a turn 2 slow.
Right. You did have turn two 11/11 dripping in poison, but I had turn one 12 power because somehow they printed a 0 mana 4/4. And I know Brian Kelly has groused not once but several times that Tinker looks terrible in comparison to Hollow One, and I think this sort of illustrated the point.
Yeah, there was some good blockers that game for sure.
Yeah, I really like Dissenter's Deliverance. That's a brilliant card.
Yeah, again, I'm just trying to hedge as much as possible because I don't want to have like a dead artifact destruction card in a lot of matchups, but I do want to have some number in my total 75. So that was a way to get there.
I like it. It's a cantrip that sort of has half a naturalize built into it.
Yeah. So with this setup, I was looking to dodge enchantments for the most part, because you will look real silly against something like Survival or Oath if you have that card in hand. But
Sure.
for this group, it worked out.
Yeah. So how did you decide to go with what I'm going to call Sylvan Mentor? I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon.
That's cool. It's basically just last Saturday I played against a Spanish guy called Jose in the Vintage Challenge, and he beat me with the Hydra. And I thought I would, show some tribute to him and build a deck around it. I just thought it was very cool. It's not quite a Monastery Mentor, but it's a pretty cool card. And the Xerox shell is, it's well cemented as a good strategy. So I thought I'd look at green for once.
Absolutely. I really think Dissenter's Deliverance actually fits beautifully into the Xerox shell because it is a 1 mana cantrip, and you can actually cast it with either a basic forest or a green mox that you can't really cycle a blue cantrip with.
Yep.
So it does fit the theme of just being a really cantrip heavy deck.
Yep.
So how have you liked Hydra over Young Pyromancer?
It lets me play all of the Moxen and try and capitalize on the mana advantage. Young Pyromancer doesn't really let you do that because you want to cast a lot of 1 mana spells in the process. So I just thought I'd try and, utilize the Moxen to power out a big Hydra, and the current blue-red shells are kind of soft to it. Most versions have just 1 or 2 Jace to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's basically my main argument for running the Hydra. That it can just. I lost the game last Saturday where I had like 9 cards in hand, all mana available, but I just couldn't beat a giant Hydra. I played blue-red.
Yeah,
so yeah,
I like it. I was telling Randy that I think that Sylvan Mentor has historically been a little bigger than the really low-to-the-ground Xerox builds, and you're usually favored in those matches. So
yeah, that's what I figured. Just a tiny edge in the blue-red matchup, and then just some hedging against random creature decks as well, because if you brought something like Eldrazi or What Do I Know, I just like the Hydra a lot in that matchup as well.
I like it too. I mean, as you said, it's not a mentor. It has to get by on trample instead of having 38 friends.
Yeah, for sure. We can't have those luxuries anymore.
Probably for the best, really.
Oh yeah, you're right. For sure.
Yeah, so who do we have next?
So next up we have Bob that we just saw on the Blue-Red Pyromancer, Splash Ancient Grudge, and he's playing against Cyrus on Storm. What do you think about that matchup, Rich?
I feel bad saying this, but I think that the Great One's going to be ahead here on account of the strength of Mental Misstep.
Okay.
No, I love Dark Ritual. I have a a Legacy Storm deck built up right now. But
Yep.
it turns out that Dark Ritual is great because it's 1 card for 3 mana. Step is 1 card and no mana for one of your opponent's mana. So you can sort of turn any of your opponent's spells into nothing. Your opponent's down a mana and you're up a mana.
Yep.
And the 2 life points are neither here nor there in most games.
Yeah, that's what the blue-red deck is looking to do. If you can trade cards with Storm all day long, you'll be in good shape. So all these little 1-for-1s are great. And then hopefully he can pressure Cyrus into a spot where he needs to invest a lot of resources and then get him with a Force of Will of Flusterstorm.
Well, looks like we're ready.
All right.
Here we go. The Great One has he has 2 counters. I like that hand. You know,
Yeah.
treating your opponent's Storm hand is always nice for sequencing. And Cyrus has a pretty solid hand too.
Yeah, that defense grid, I was just about to say. Then my pick for this match is Cyrus. I think those defense grids will really give Bob a headache.
I agree. Grid's such a powerful thing. It just, it shuts off everything that Bob's trying to do in life.
It does turn on the Ancient Grudges he has in his main deck.
It does.
I was fortunate to be in some spots for round 1 where I could either blow up the defense grids. I think that was game 3. So I
Yeah.
could actually get my countermagic to work. But if you don't have that opportunity, you can be in trouble.
You guys had an awesome, awesome game.
For sure. Those were 3 great games.
So how did it feel when Cyrus was sort of going off? I mean, I know, I've been in your seat before watching a Storm player going off and thinking, I hope he misses, but
Are you talking about the Necro game?
yeah.
Yeah, the Necro game, once he played that Time Walk, I knew that he just had, I think he had 3 life points left at that moment. I knew he just had to find the kill in the top 2 because Time Walk didn't really do a whole lot at that point. But up until that point, I was basically like, okay, I'm down 0-1 and I need to come back and win 2 consecutive games now.
Do you think it's curious that Cyrus hasn't opted to play his cantrips at all? I get why. He's probably trying to dance around Misstep, but
Yeah, he's not looking to let Bob get any value out of Mental Misstep. So playing it like this is fine as long as you're playing against a slow deck.
Mhm.
We do play with open deck lists, so he knows what he's up against.
That's true. That's true. I do like the fact that we're playing with open deck lists. I think doing otherwise would not make sense for this.
No, for sure. I'm just saying that there's no risk that he's playing against like a mirror match or a PO deck, so he can do that
Right.
rather risk-free.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well,
Meanwhile, Bob is missing on lands, but that prearrange should get him there.
right. Well, that's the whole Xerox philosophy, right? You turn some of your mana base into cantrips for
Yep,
precisely this reason.
for sure. That's how you're gaining virtual card advantage by not running that many mana sources.
Right? Leads to better top decks later. Although it does take a little while for the deck to cash in on all of that. And so a deck like Cyrus's could, in theory, run over Bob before the inherent card advantage in his engine really manifests itself.
Yep, he has multiple routes to victory, and that's definitely one of them.
I think one of the really telling things is that if you look at the non-blue decks that are seeing play in Vintage, they all have in common that none of them are trying to make the game go particularly long. And
Yeah.
part of that is that the CRX decks are so good at playing the late game.
Oh yeah.
That's a powerful thing right there. This is actually, wow.
I like Force of Willing in spots like this, for the record.
So
that information is just so big to give up.
it is. Cyrus, if you can find some mana, can just go off of this turn unimpeded, and if he passes the turn, Bob can gush, Bob can Snapcaster into another cantrip. Oh,
Yeah.
grid.
Another defense grid. I don't think it's worth the ritual right now, but
It's probably not worth it. No, I agree with you. It's not like Cyrus is under all that much pressure.
so what do you foresee here? Gushing or Snapcaster Probe?
I like gushing here.
Yeah, because you don't have a land drop, so you kind of get to free roll the gush.
Yeah, exactly. And he gets to snap back a cantrip if he does that. I
Yep.
bet he'd feel a lot better if he had another force of will.
So he can go, once he gushes, he can choose to either Snapcaster Probe.
Ooh,
Those were not great draws.
that is not what the
I
grid.
guess Snapcaster Probe, keep up Pyroblast is a fine play.
I actually think I like that. Yeah, given that his hand has actual nothing in it, leaving up red seems perfectly reasonable here.
It's actually a pretty close call because he bricked on the gush. So I don't think he can afford to draw any more mana sources. So maybe the preordain is what he should be doing.
This is a really tough play. I think I would leave up Reb, but I can absolutely see the argument to do otherwise.
Yeah, this hand just can't afford to break anymore.
I also think there's a lot of value in knowing Cyrus's hand. The cards that Bob had seen before, two of them have been replaced,
Yeah, I think that's right.
and I guess it's not nothing to leave up Lightning Bolt, is it?
When would that be relevant?
If Cyrus has a Yawgmoth's Bargain or something like that.
Sure. Sure, it's not irrelevant at least.
Well, the Grudge could actually do something, though we'll see what line Cyrus takes. Ooh, actually, I think that means that Cyrus can play the grid and then go off.
Yeah, that's sort of a dark ritual. Yeah, might as well cash in the bolt now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, or maybe he won't.
Let's see. He can get to 5 mana, then drop a Necro.
He can. Yeah, he can get to 5 mana and cast Necro. And Necro sort of combos with Mana Vault because Mana Vault doesn't really want to deal damage to you if you're a Necromancer.
So if he does that, he can probably draw something like 6 or 7 cards, and that should be fine.
Right. It looks like he's not going to, though. It looks like he's going to take the...
Yeah, and it makes sense because Bob needs a Mox. Yeah, I guess he just can't interact, right? I guess he can draw Force of Will. So then he can blow up the grid on his turn, and then have the Force of Will. But it's very few outs.
Ooh, Treasure Cruise. Well,
always a great draw after the first few turns.
Absolutely. I think Bob has to blow up the grid here and just hope that Cyrus has the fear. Because if Cyrus untaps, and Bob knows that Cyrus has a Dark Petition,
Yep.
So if Cyrus gets the go-ahead, he just goes off.
For sure.
So even if Bob has legitimate nothing, he, logical reasons alone, has to get rid of the grid.
So it's either that versus trying to Treasure Cruise into something like Lotus Time Walk. What do I know? Some very good combination of cards.
It would have to be extraordinarily good.
Yeah. So do you like just representing the Force of Will instead?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think Cyrus might go for it anyways, but I think that the odds of Cyrus being afraid and not going for it are higher than the odds of Bob hitting something Christmassy like Lotus Time Walk and Force of Will, so he can Time Walk into another turn and also get rid of it. Yeah, I think all of that's just too much.
You're probably right, but the longer Bob waits on this play, the less convincing it is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. The more we're doing this, if Bob had a Force of Will, he would not hesitate to
that
shatter and pass.
So the percentages are very, very small.
Unless you think that Bob is an ancient master who's going to be mind gaming Cyrus.
Yeah, that would be a great play. Just go out, make a cup of coffee, come back, and make that play.
Man. Oh, I like that play. I like that play. That's what I would do if I were the Great One. If I had Transcendent Master as my avatar, yeah, I would do that. But yeah, I think the right play is to just get rid of the grid and then crash it for 2 and off you go.
Does he know about all the 3 cards in Cyrus' hand?
No, he knows about 2 of the 3. Yeah, he knows about the Dark Petition, and the Dark
And
Petition pretty
he
much.
also knows about the tendrils.
So Dark Petition, I mean, right now Cyrus could get bargain, but Cyrus if Cyrus got Yawgmoth's Will, I don't know. Does Cyrus have enough? If you don't know about Dark Ritual, does Cyrus have enough to grab Yawgmoth's Will? He could refire Dark. No, he doesn't have a ritual. He could refire a land.
Yeah, that's not really. What about just Ancient Grudging the Mana Vault here? Like I did in the match against Cyrus. I opted to kill the Soul Ring in a similar spot, I guess.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of hitting defense grids. Like one of the choke points, one of the normal choke points of Storm is that he doesn't have a ton of gas, and I think Cyrus lost by sort of running out of gas in game 1.
Yeah.
Unlike Outcome, where I think it's correct often to smash the artifacts, I don't think it's usually correct to attack the mana in the same way. But
Bob goes for that play. I mean, in a situation like this, it would be pretty natural to put Cyrus on having a bargain in hand, because he wants to develop the mana vault, and he didn't have any play that turn. So maybe he's working towards 6 mana. From Bob's view.
I can totally see it. Oh,
and
that's
blowing
right.
up the defense grid is most likely not gonna, like we talked about, it's very small percentages. So.
Oh, Chad is pointing out that he did know Cyrus's hand on account of the flashback probe last turn.
Right. So he also knew about and he top decked the mana vault and he played that out. So yeah, so he had full information.
Okay. So I don't know. I think that I would have hit the defense grid there. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
So normally Cyrus plays Legacy, where you get Past in Flames, which is fine.
Yeah, that's a great card.
But now he gets to enjoy the full-bodied goodness of Yawgmoth's Will, where you can put your land back in.
And the mana vault that just got destroyed.
Yeah, and it's even on color, so it's just a nice thing. So this game is over.
He's just searching up a Black Lotus for good measure. Take 16.
There we go. All right. So that was a pretty intense game 1. We had a lot of really interesting decisions. Ultimately, the best I think Bob could have hoped for was scaring Cyrus from going for it for another turn.
Yeah, he needed a better gush to be competitive that game.
Yeah. Sometimes it's really sad. You gush, you get your 2 lands back, and then you look and you see 2 other lands, and man, that didn't work out so well. And then you have this embarrassing hand that's just full of land. So now we can watch them sideboard.
Bob will probably try and improve a little bit by cutting the bolts, I assume, for Null Rod and Wasteland.
I like that. I like Null Rod. I know that I mentioned earlier that I don't usually like going after the artifact 1 by 1 for mana, but Null Rod is solid. It's not as backbreaking as against Outcome, though.
No,
because of Dark Ritual.
He has 6 rituals to still get his mana acceleration going.
Yeah. So Cyrus can certainly go right off through a Null Rod. Unfortunately, there just aren't a tremendous number of great options for Bob.
No, but to be fair, he should have just an above-average matchup in the first place, so I don't think he needs a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. So did you plan at all for Storm combo? Because Cyrus is Cyrus.
No, I didn't. I didn't know too much about him. A friend of mine messaged me and said, oh, so you're playing against the Legacy Storm Master or whatever. but that's basically it. I just figured that the cards that are good against PO would also be great against Storm, and it would be fine. So
They mostly are. The artifact hate gets a little worse, but man, mental misstep gets a lot better.
Oh yeah.
So if I'm Bob, I'm certainly going to bring in more grudges because I don't want to get destroyed by grids again.
No,
right?
Grudge is pretty good. If you can blow up a grid and a Mox, it's just great value.
Cyrus has 3 of them.
He has the fourth in the sideboard, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. So it looks like he sideboarded out a pedal, an LED, a vamp tutor, so all the card disadvantage mechanisms, and then 2 blue cards that my glasses prescription is not helping me see at all.
I think it's Hercule's Recall and probably Time Twister. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that looks about right, and those both make sense. So he's stripping away 5 cards that are sort of card disadvantage to him.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense.
Bob has deigned to bring in the grudges. He's not bringing in that red, which I think is reasonable because Storm is less of a rebable deck.
Yep. How I like to sideboard against Storm is usually trim on win conditions because you don't really want to draw 2 win conditions ever.
Right.
You need to not lose the game before considering winning the game.
That's a good point. Wow. So
there's the classic combo of Null Rod plus Skullclamp.
Yeah, Bob's hand's a little awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
He sort of mulligans to 5 by casting that Null Rod, doesn't he?
Yeah. The question is how much he's forcing his opponent to mulligan to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the right way to think about this scenario. But if you're going to put Null Rod in your deck, you put it in your deck for a reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Cyrus's hand looks really good at combating this. He even
yeah, his hand is very resilient.
It is.
Yeah.
I like the Time Walk here. The Time Walk's kind of free.
Yeah, he wants as much information as possible before he starts.
Ooh, Merchant Scroll.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I like preordaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bob could have hedged against a turn 1 kill by trying to get a force or something, but I don't think it's worth it here. I think he's safer just getting the Null Rod out because that'll preclude most turn 1 kills anyway.
Yeah, the problem with getting the Force Will is that you just look pretty silly against something like Duress. And you're not really advancing your own game plan, so...
I agree.
I think he's hoping to get Ancestral with that one, though.
Yeah, I like that. Bob does have to win at some point.
Maybe he's playing off the Null Rod here to hedge against the turn 1 kill. And then next turn scroll for Ancestral.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah, I like it. I mean, that's a very solid line.
So the card disadvantage he's giving up by turning off his Mox and Skullclamp, he's trying to buy back with Ancestral. Still super soft to Duress there, but he dodged it.
So, I guess I'm not entirely sure, and I'm no dredge pilot, but I'm not entirely
You are, in fact, a dredge pilot.
I'm sorry. I'm no... Right. I'd grouse about whatever time it is here, but I know that it's even worse for you. So I am no Dark Petition Storm player, but I would certainly have played the preordain there because even if it gets mentally misstepped,
he'll unlock the ritual.
It'll unlock the ritual, right?
Yeah, I think that hand could definitely afford to run out the cantrip. Where the last game I thought it was brilliantly played by Cyrus, where he kept the preordain until post defense grid.
Oh no! I guess Bob could leave open misstep, but that hardly seems worth it.
Yeah, you can't really just sit around, so he needs to do some digging here. Yeah, defense grid is just so good.
Oh man, I mean,
yeah.
Oh wow, boom!
I like this.
Yeah, that's really good.
So we might see him blowing up his own null rod this game, but let's see about that.
So now Cyrus is throwing his preordained to the wolves.
Yeah,
I would have done that earlier. I would have done that on turn 1.
yeah, that would have looked way more smooth at this point.
So if Bob plays the Ponder, he might not find a blue card, so he might
Yeah,
not be able to.
I like keeping the cantrip in a spot like this.
Bob doesn't have a lot going on. Maybe he's trying to. Even
Yeah,
the environmental here doesn't really do all that much for him, though, does it?
no, it's just super slow, and the game will be about action from Cyrus versus answers from Bob, not the 2-1 and the small army.
Right. And what Bob lacks, I think, is a card that he can windmill slam down and say, all right, your deck doesn't work anymore, Cyrus. If
Yeah,
Cyrus were on a traditional outcome list, then that null rod would be changing everything.
yeah,
And Bob could basically play Protect the Queen with the null rod. But he can't in this case because, as you can see from Cyrus's hand, uh, Storm is not really susceptible to that kind of hate.
no. Some hands it will disrupt a lot, but when
Mhm.
you have the rituals, you
Yeah.
got the upper hand.
So, how do you feel about Cyrus's choice in Dark Ritual art?
To be honest, I don't really care too much about art. So, which are available? Are the old ones available on Magic Online?
They are. So Cyrus has chosen the Rebecca Guay Dark Ritual, which is beautiful. I can't fault the art. Um,
No,
myself
I'd
personally,
go with the old ones.
I prefer the originals.
Yeah, I even like the Tempest one.
The Tempest one's a fine choice. I think that Ken Mayer Jr. He's a brilliant artist. He's only
Oh yeah,
done a few pieces of art and magic, but they're all so legendary and iconic.
yeah.
He's done Kurt Ape, Erdem Jin, that Dark Ritual, of course, uh, Mystic Remora. I mean, these are all cards that we know about, we enjoy. Ooh,
So
now,
now we have the problem with playing out that ponder
yeah,
because
yeah,
now you don't have the misstep, force of will plus random blue card.
I agree. So at this point, if Cyrus goes for it, then that's it and that's all, right?
Yeah, I think once he casts the first Dark Ritual, he's kind of committed.
Oh man, all right, look at that. Boom.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is not gonna end well for Bob.
No, no, it's not. So interestingly, Demonic Tutor and Dark Petition are the exact same magic card here.
I think there are some cases where investing the 5 mana up front can be a difference. Oh, he can just go for the Tendrils there. Never mind.
Yeah, it's
Then you're definitely right. If that's your objective, then you're right.
well played, Cyrus.
Oh yeah, he played it very very carefully,
Hmm.
and didn't get punished for it. I could see a world where he was just too clunky to start off this game. But yeah, Bob's draws weren't super great. Skullclamp, Nullrod, a lot of Moxen.
Yeah,
That
I
was
mean,
just unfortunate.
Bob mulled himself to 5. He sort of built his own hymn to Torok, which is unfortunate, but it's what you have to do sometimes. It's not wrong because in a lot of games, Nullrod is better than a 3-for-1 against your opponent.
Yeah, for sure. So
You saw,
next up,
oh,
so who do you think? I think I'm next up against Bob.
uh,
I don't have the schedule here.
Cyrus on commentary, Andreas hosting Bob for match 5. So
All
it looks
right.
like you are going to take on the Great One. How do you feel about this matchup?
Uh, I think I'm maybe slightly ahead, but to be honest, the blue matchups are a lot about who can try and snowball the delve spells,
Mhm.
counter your opponent's delve spells, and just take it from there. So I hope to get into some spots where I can kind of try and outmaneuver him.
I, I yeah, I think your deck is favored against him, but
Yeah, I think my threat is a little bit better than his. but it's a little bit more expensive as well. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This should be a good matchup, though.
yeah, I hope for great games.
I hope so too. I hope so too. Um, so you noticed that Cyrus hedged a little bit against Nullrod when he sideboarded. He brought out a couple of the artifact mana producers, and
Yep.
I think that makes sense if he looked at Bob's sideboard and thought he's probably going to bring in Nullrod, so I'm going to try to mitigate some of that.
That can definitely be a factor, but also LED and pedal, they're just best when you're trying to be as fast as possible, and
Mhm.
that's not usually the game against a blue deck with tons of disruption. So I think he just trimmed bad top decks rather than hedged against Nullrod, but you can ask him.
All right, looks like we're going to go to some ads.
All right.